Peace, family. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Thursday, October the 31st, 2024, and the time is 3:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just came on to tell you that I've been doing a little bit of research and a little bit of study about what's going on behind the scenes. Most of you all know that I do geopolitical research as well as financial and economic research. Well, I was talking to one of my friends who I won't tell his name, but he happens to be um, somebody that has classified information. And we were talking about geopolitics. And so I was saying to him, I know that we keep saying that, there are certain people in power, the United States Incorporated, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, thank you for, having this conversation with me. I said, but what about the Black people, so-called Black people who are really pulling the strings that's behind white supremacy? I said, why don't people talk about those people? And I said, because they are brown skinned and they are the ones really ruling the world. And I said, I've been doing a little bit of research. This is what I have come to overstand and understand. And he said, oh my God, you guys, so I want you to do some research. You must be referring to the Medici, did you say Medici and the Orsini? And I said, the Black Pope. Black Pope. Then I've learned that there's a Black Pope, a white Pope, a gray Pope, excuse me, Pope. And I say, yeah, he was like the Boule. I was like, well, the ones behind the Boule. He said the Medici, the Orsini family, look them up, are from a specific bloodline that's been controlling the world. And then as we begin to talk, and I have to be careful not to say too much, because I don't know how much people want to talk about. He was talking about he told me about Haile Selassie, the Orsini and the Medici families. They're cousins to Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie's bloodline allegedly is running the world now. That I don't know if Haile Selassie was a part of the Moroccan Empire or not, the Ethiopian last king or whatever. But when you go to West Africa, they praise Haile Selassie, and different people all over the planet praise him. And I always thought it was a little peculiar that he married a woman that wasn't even from his bloodline. And I just got I got bad vibes from him. Other people was like, oh, he's such a great guy. I don't know. I didn't get good vibes. But, who am I? I don't know. I'm going to do a little more research. But allegedly, this is the bloodline family that's been running the world. Now, when the Europeans came to America, you all know that they came with Christopher Columbus in 1492. Christopher Columbus most likely was not a Caucasian. From my limited research, he was a melanated man. Okay, but he came with others, and they were from the Moorish Empire that controlled Europe. The Moorish Empire are people who are brown skinned. They brought indentured servants, the Europeans, over here. And remember, who was it? It was Obama, and I heard President Trump say the same thing. And people think that I don't know what I'm talking about when I said Trump said the same thing, but Obama and some other presidents have said in the past that Morocco is the first empire or the first people that allowed us to rule ourselves or acknowledged us as our own nation. So when they came here, the indentured servants came to America, they were allowed or enabled to conduct their own business, to rule themselves, to have their own nation. That was separate from what we had already established here. The Moroccan Empire was full of people who looked like me. We are the Aboriginal copper-colored people, the Americans that Christopher Columbus and the Europeans found here when they got here. So you can look up the 1828 Webster's definition of American. And the 1828 Webster's definition of American is the copper-colored people found here in America by Christopher Columbus or by the Europeans, but now applied to the Europeans. So the Europeans that came here, they were not original Americans. That's why some people say that when you call everybody who come here American, you're actually participating in identity theft. So what happened was the people in power, not the Europeans that came here, but the people in power actually allowed people to come here. And of course, the Moors or the Aboriginal people who were here we left them alone and let you know that we didn't have a problem with them ruling and themselves and conducting their own business. Like, why would we? But what happened was the Moroccan Empire decided to pay off their debt or forgive their debt, all of the indentured servants when they came here. And then they put them over the Aboriginal people or gave them certain jobs, like they gave them gatekeeping jobs, and allowed them, the Europeans, to come over here to have like more, over time, more land, to have power, to be in banking, to be in certain and education, all 9 areas or sectors of society. But remember, the European folk who came here, who were indentured servants, and they had everything wiped away, all the debt wiped away, they were given positions of power. Okay. But remember, in Hollywood, they would do what was called blackface, and you would see them like painting black on their faces, and it looked like they were mocking brown skinned people. What they were actually doing is sending coded messages saying, look, you think we're in power? No, there are darker beings than we, who are actually controlling the puppet strings. They were sending codes. Everything that happens in this world is coded. The commercials are coded. The stage plays are coded. The movies, theatrics, they're coded. Presidential speeches, everything is coded, whether it be numerology or actually written words or signs and symbols. So they were trying to let us know that there were darker beings. Those darker beings are a bloodline of people who are either humans or human hybrids or extraterrestrials that came to this planet and masqueraded themselves as a certain people. Many of them blended in with the copper colored Aboriginal indigenous peoples here in America and all over the world. We have been lied to, family, about so many things, but I'll get into more detail about that a little later. I'll come back later, but I want you to look up the Medici and the Orsini, the black nobility. These are people that are brown, okay, that rule the world. They pull all the strings. They created white supremacy. So people will say white people control everything. No, white people don't control everything. Beings, extraterrestrial beings, like the Nephilim, and those that made it with human beings and their bloodline. Some of them are human. Their bloodline, many of whom look like my complexion. Now, by now, they're probably all types of complexions. They might be they might present as European, some of them, they might present as brown or copper color or whatever. But my point is, we've been lied to about everything. Everything. So, this is why we have to stop fighting about race, color, religion, creed, all that. It's all faux pas. It's all fake. It's all paradigms or belief systems that have been put in place to cause us to fight one another so we won't know who's really controlling things. Again, there are certain bloodlines, and according to my knowledge, these bloodlines are the ones who actually put the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and these et cetera, in place. But you have bloodlines behind them. You have the Black Pope behind them. Okay. You have dark entities, beings that are not even human, that came to this planet to control us. So again, white supremacy is something that they made us think is about skin complexion, but it really isn't. White and black are statuses and law. When the indentured servants came over here from Europe, and became known as the 13 colonies, they weren't considered white. They were considered, their legal status was black, that of a slave. They were the indentured servants, not the copper colored people here. That's a lie. We weren't the original indentured servants or the slaves. Slave come from the word Slav or Slavics. The Irish were slaves when they came here and treated like indentured servants. The Italians, that's why they participated in the underground economy. That's why the Italians lived in the first slums. That's why you had the Italian mafia and them running like underground businesses and drugs and all that stuff, because they were trying to figure out a way to live in this society. But the people in power said, you know what? We're going to First, they were called black. Our classification, because we were the ones that ruled the land, or not ruled, but owned the land. Our ancestors did. Our status was white. But the people in power said, we're going to switch it up, and we're going to make the colonists be classified as white, and the Aboriginal copper colored people found here by Christopher Columbus, we're going to give their classification black. We're flipping things and make them pay off the debt of the corporations. We're going to make the people on the land who own this land, control the land, pay off all the debt. This is why Pope Francis said in his letter Motu Proprio that we made the African Americans pay off the debt. He said that in his letter, Motu Proprio. He said, but then we switched it up and we made everybody indentured servants and made them pay off the debts of the corporation. But again, when the Caucasian people, the European people came over here, many of them, most of them were indentured servants. The women were sex slaves of the Moors that ruled Spain from 711 to 1492 and actually ruled over Europe. They brought those servants over here. They brought criminals over here. They brought, the most of them were just servants and indentured servants or slaves over here, and allowed them to rule here. Those Moors that came over here then conquered this land. The Caucasian Europeans who were in Europe, they were going through the same thing we're all going through over here. The people masquerading as Moors who were really from that bloodline that were related to the Nephilim that came down to the earth, they were doing bad things to their children, destroying their organs, drinking their essence, having child hunting parties, molesting the women, not just the entities, but their hybrid humans. So they came here to escape that, and they were allowed to be here, and they were allowed to rule and govern themselves. They had their own government. They had their own way of life. And then the copper color original people here, indentured people here, were lied to and told that you're black and you came from Africa on some slave ships. They lied to us about everything. But people that look like me, that reject that, actually did our own study to find out we never were slaves. No people on either side of my family ever were slaves. They were all landowners, business owners. None of them can trace not 1 inch of blood to Africa. Now, perhaps through marriage or trading or what I'm trying to say, or migrating back and forth, you might have had people mix their seed, but my people are not from African slave ships. Most of people that look like me are not. We are the indigenous, aboriginal, copper-colored people that were found here by Christopher Columbus and the Europeans that came here. We've been lied to about everything, family. Everything. It's so sobering because I already knew, just from studying with the Moors and studying with just people, and actually doing my own research, especially when I went to Ghana, West Africa, and I spent like months there over the years, for between 2013 or 2014 and 2017 years. I spent time there, and I kept studying, and then I studied with some other people from different African bloodlines, and they kept saying, you and we are not the same people. We did not sell you guys. We're not the same. And they're like, we're not even trying to make you feel bad or make you feel like we just don't want to claim you. They're like, I mean, we might be cousins, but in terms of you all coming from Africa on slave ships, it's a lie. Now, what did happen is that when we were enslaved here, or made forced to be indentured service in order to pay off the debt of the corporation that ruled in America, many of us were sent to Africa and reclassified as African Americans, okay? Because we were Americans, they sent us to Africa, and some of us made it back. That's what happened. But if we think for one moment that a group of people from Europe can send over millions or hundreds of thousands of strong men, women, and children cross the Atlantic Ocean in some wooden boats and somehow populated all of the Americas, then we really are not thinking correctly. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So I want you to look up the Medici and the Orsini and help me research this and let me know what you find out, and see if you can connect that to Haile Selassie. I think it's a reason. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but I think it's a reason why they kept pushing him. I never got good vibes from him, honestly. I don't get vibes from anybody that they push in front of my face. I didn't get good vibes from none of those so-called Black leaders. Most of them aren't even American. They didn't come from here. That this whole Back to Africa movement, that Jamaican guy, I can't think of his name right now. The Back to Africa guy, cannot think of his name, was trying to send us all back to Africa. They were all part of the plot to get us off of our land here in America so that all these foreigners can come here and control our land. And then when all the foreigners come here, also these extraterrestrial beings can come from up under the ground and from all over wherever they come from, different planets, to probably rule them and control the resources here. But we're not going anywhere. They tried to put drugs in our community. They put guns in our community. They put abortion clinics in our community. They did everything they could. They took the man out of the house or enticed the man to get out of the house. They enticed the woman to depend on the government of America. And all over the world, really, but especially here in America. Why? Because this is the promised land, because America is Egypt, because the Garden of Eden is actually in Florida, because everything that you hear in the Bible, Israel, all of those things that they say is way out there started here in America. This is the promised land. Everybody and their mama and pappy know it. And that's why they always come in here to take the resources. But what they intended to do was take my people, kill us, take away our identity, enslave us, drug us, help us to have a non-marriage culture, have us to kill our own seed by masquerading under the guise of reproductive rights. And they were going to try to destroy us through genocide and all these other programs and suppress us until we couldn't be suppressed no more. And then they plan to do the same to our European Caucasian brothers and sisters. And once they got them, then they would go after all the immigrants that they allowed to come here. Very smart plot, but we're not going anywhere. And they're not going to keep us divided because we know their plan. They lied to us about everything. That's it, family. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope I said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go make this a great day. I love you so much. Bye-bye.